Okay, I'm going to move through these a little more quickly. I know you want to take notes, but if I go slow, we're going to have to carry that over into Wednesday. Yeah, it's just going to, I think it's very clear, like I wrote a lot of detail on these. Largely because that other one, I told you this, half the students were really confused by that problem, no matter how many times I asked it. So I'm hoping that you guys won't be as confused because I went over it that slowly. So on this equation, you're supposed to solve this equation without logarithms. This question about solving equations with logarithms, I actually work in medical teams where the doctors have to remember this stuff, and they don't remember any of it. So every time I do a maneuver with what I'm going to show you today, they get freaked out. They're like, where did that go? How'd you do that? And it's just like doing a log of both sides, that's all. So the idea is that if you have an exponential equation, I can even show you the applications. It has to do with fat and lean mass. It's a really cool application, but people always ask me when I start moving, like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm just logging both sides, or I'm exponentiating both sides. The opposite of an exponential is a log. So if you want to get at those x's, isn't that what you do? You solve for x? You're always supposed to solve for x. You want to solve for x here. You have to get those exponentials out. So to undo it out of there, you do a log. So to do that first, you have to make the bases the same, because you remember the list that you get, the laws of exponentials, it's like b to the m, b to the n. The bases are always the same. And they're not the same, but these are set up for you so they can be made the same, because 16 is really 4 squared. So I'm going to write 16 as 4 squared, and then I'm going to drop, that was the original equation here, 4 is h to the and 16 is here. I'm going to replace the 16 with 4 squared. So that's all I did so far. I just replaced the 16 with 4 squared. Remember cell phone rules. I got to shut my Facebook off. I heard it beeping. I'm an addict myself, so don't walk past any of my meetings because I'm on the phone. All right, so use the laws to simplify. When you have a multiplication on the outside of a parentheses, what are you supposed to do? Which law is that? Multiply the exponents. He's got it down. He's got the tattoo. Did you get yourself tattooed with the laws of it? No? So recall that these get multiplied over here. And what I'm using is I didn't write it down, but I'm using that b to the m raised to the n on the outside. The n's and the m's get multiplied. So I'm multiplying the 2 times 3x minus 5. And now notice that I took that 2 and I used the distributive law to move that 2 inside. So this 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 5 is negative 10. I think oh, you put the O down there. No, it's been freaking out on me, so I can move it back up. Oop, it didn't like that. Let's see. There it is. There we go. So now you set those exponents equal because you have 2 bases and the exponents are the same. Set them equal. Did it again. And solve for x. And moved it down again. I also didn't see the 10. Bear with me because I don't want you guys to look at this later, because you might be looking at it a lot later. It won't do it. Yeah, it should be a 10 here. Maybe I'll just put a text box in. Like so. I know. Down below, right? And then you get x equals 5. So I'm sure on the next page you're going to get x equals 5. Negative 5. So I don't think I'm able to cancel that other thing out, but you can see x equals negative 5. You'll hear me on the video. Okay, question?
That's the answer?
Can we wait till after class? Okay, so that the answer to that one is x equals negative 5. Negative 5. Got it? What? Yes, I can't cross it out because it's written. So all the work that I do on the tablet, it's written on a different computer because this is not a tablet.
All right, thank you.
But the software I bought for this computer, so I have to do it that way. Okay, so this is background that you need for this particular problem. And this question, now you have laws of exponents. You have now the exponential and logs are inverses of each other to add on to that. Now you have 7 rules. Here's an 8th one. The 8th rule is that natural log of a to the r is r log a. So the r comes out in front. And one more. Natural log of a times b on the inside is natural log of a plus natural log of b. Natural log of a divided by b is natural log of a minus natural log of b. When I went to grad school, I mean, you cover this just like you do in pre-calc, and you rarely see them again. When I first went to grad school, I was teaching Calc 1, and I couldn't remember the logs. Some student was asking me some question about these rules, and there was a guy who was in my office. He came out from behind his desk, didn't say a word, wrote the laws on the board, and then went back quietly to his desk without saying a word. I can't tell you how stupid I felt. Felt really, really dumb. And I hope he's watching this YouTube video. He's a high school teacher, so I doubt he's watching my videos. But every time I see him, I remind him, remember you did that? That was really rude. I just didn't remember. I hadn't used them, so I didn't remember them. So step 1 is to ln both sides of that equation. Again, like before, you're after the exponent, so you want to get it out of there. So take an ln of both sides of that equation. And then you apply rule 1. So those powers come out in front. It's the r. So in this case, the r up there is x minus 5, and the r on this side is x minus 2. Should be x minus 2. Gosh, this was like a terrible day for me. Okay, so I'm going to put 2, not 5, but I'm not going to keep doing that over, so that the work is exactly the same. Next step is to solve for x, so that should be a 2, not 5. I copied it from the previous page. So right up here where you have the 5, this should be a 2, but the steps are exactly the same. I don't know what happened to me. I think I must have had a bad breakfast or something.
But the first 5 is a 5, right?
The first 5 is a 5. If you look back here, it's what I call a transposition error. You guys do that too, right? See up here, I saw this is a 2, not a 5. Somehow I wrote down 5. I have no idea what was in my mind. Can't tell you. So then you solve for x. The steps are the same. If that was a 2 or a 5, nothing changes. You take anything, you first distribute. So you take that natural log 5, think of it like a number. It is a number actually. And then you distribute it inside. So this should be a natural log 6 times x minus 2. That's what would be different. That number would be different. And then the blue stuff is what I have after I do the distributive law. So I bring that inside. Then I take all the x garbage and put it to the left. Anything that's not an x goes to the right. So bring all the x stuff to the left and all the non-x stuff to the right. So this is what I get with my mistaken 5 in there instead of the 2. So anything that's not an x goes over here. Anything that has an x with it goes over here. Last step is to factor out the x's on this side, on the left side. If I factor out the x's, I get an x comes to the outside, and natural log 5 minus natural log 6 is on the inside. See, if you multiply backwards, I'm back at the previous step if I distribute the x in. And then slash out on both sides natural log 5 minus natural log 6. I copied the previous page, so if you're still writing down, this is where you were at before. I had factored out the x. Now divide both sides by the bottom, and so you'll get x. And I would say leave your answer like this because I have an error in it. So because of my error, things are going to cancel where I don't want it to cancel, because this is really supposed to be a 2 here, not a 5. So that should be a 2, right? I had a 5, there won't be a 5. Hopefully I've done all the errors, arithmetic errors possible today, and we're done with that. I don't know what was, you look at it sometimes saying, why did I write a 5 there? Maybe it was a snow. You know what it is? Delayed openings, kids at home, and you're trying to do this at the same time. That's when you know you're really good at something. You just put 2 little naughty kids in the way and then do whatever you're trying to do at the same time. Huh? I won't be able to factor this 5 out because one of them would be a 2, not a 5. Recall that there was a 2 in front, right? Not a 5. One of the up here, this should have been a 2. Right? I won't be able to do this factoring. Yeah, they won't slash out like that because I made an error, right? I don't have an x minus 5 on both sides. I have an x minus 2. So this number here, right here, should have been a 2, right there. So I won't be able to factor like that.
It's supposed to be a 2?
Yeah, and this number right here is supposed to be 2, right? Because I have a 2, this should be a 2 here. Should be 5 natural log 5 minus 2 natural log 6. Yeah, I corrected it back here, so you have it, but I didn't correct it all the way through. That should be a 2, not a 5 right there. So I just wrote down the problem wrong. Should be x minus 2, not x minus 5. Okay, I've got 3 more problems. I know it's tough. Stay with me. Because if you guys aren't engaged with me, then I won't be able to do it myself, especially with my errors. So solve the equation. First, express your answer in terms of natural logarithms. They want you to keep the ln's in there. And then second, they want a decimal answer. So they want both things. This is very much like your body cooling problem. You're trying to solve for that exponential. The first step is to isolate the e, the term with an e. That 34 is keeping that term with the e from being by itself. So the first thing you need to do is wipe out that 34 from both sides by dividing. So divide both sides by 34. Those cancel on that side. Don't simplify it, because if you simplify it, then you're going to have, you don't want to simplify it, because if you simplify it, you won't have your answer in terms of natural logs. So that's where we're at. Now what do? Somebody in here knows what to do, because somebody was able to do it on the in-class assignment. L on both sides. The rest of you know too. Jake did such a good job, right? You don't need me anymore. He can come in here. L on both sides. That's how you get the E out of there. So it's like the ln and the E cancel. Those two things cancel, and then I have minus x over 2 on both sides, and then a log on the right. Now how do I get that x by itself? What do I have to multiply both sides to get that x by itself? Negative 2, both sides. So I copied it. If you're there, I'm mindful of the fact that there's no takers. So I've always copied the paste. So now I'm going to solve for x by multiplying both sides by negative 2. Because to get x by itself, I need these two to cancel. If you're writing on your notes, the way I'm copying the piece is so that you can just deface what you're writing, so you don't have to keep going forward and rewriting the same thing. So those go out, and I'm left with x is minus 2 natural log 60.9 over 34. Notice that Webassign is correct. It has the same answer as me, and which today was probably an iffy thing. And then if we look at the decimal answer is minus 1.1657, which rounds to minus 1.17, which is their second answer. So just be careful when you type these into the calculator. Do try to do the problems. Or one of the things, like some of you are not, like if you don't get the answer right in Webassign itself, go and see if you can do my problem and you get the same answer when you use it on your calculator. If you don't get the same answer when you do it on your calculator, that's when you take a picture of how you're typing things into the calculator and send me that picture. It might be the way you're typing it in.